we go. This is a nice one. Oh, not the crab trap, not the crab trap, not the crab trap. No, 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 no. There we go. Whew. Heck yeah. That was a nice fish. Well, I finally got one of those big ones that were out there just busting up that bait. There he is right here. And man, I'll tell you what, he just swallowed that Slam Shady. Hey, what's up, Salt Strong family? This is Pat Ogletree, and in this video, I want to talk about my favorite time of year, and that is fall time. I don't know if you've been outside lately, but if you've noticed, the temperature has dropped. There is fall decorations everywhere, and pumpkin spice latte everywhere that you see, and that just signals fall time. Now, my favorite thing about fall time is that's when the fishing is great. It's one of my favorite times of the year to be out on the water. You get the doldrums of the summer, they've kind of winding down, those temperatures are dropping, the fish are getting more active. What's happening is that water temperature is dropping, and now the fish are feeding all day long. So no longer do you have to get up in the middle of the night just to get ready for the morning to wake those roosters up and get on the water before the sun gets up there to get on a bite. These fish are going to be biting all day long. And another thing that's happening that's really great is the fact that we're having a couple of different migrations of fish. So you got your final run of your fin fish, the bait fish that's coming in, and then you're getting that final flush of the shrimp that's coming out. So you get the fish that are congregating near these river mouths and these creek mouths. You got the shrimp that's flushing out. You got the bait fish that's coming in, and it's just a fantastic time to be out on the water. Now, if you haven't done so already, you want to change up your tactics a little bit when you're out on the water. Now, in the summertime, we typically fish near inlets, bigger open bodies of water, and wind-blown shorelines. Now, in the fall time, when that signal of those shorter days and that lower sun angle, that's going to move those fish closer into the creek mouths. So that's where we want to be fishing. We also want to be fishing both the wind-blown and the wind-protected sides of the shoreline, but most importantly, we want to be fishing near bait. If there's not bait around, or at least the biggest concentration of bait in the area, you want to move on and find a different area. So let's talk about the 3 best lures that you should be using this time of year. The first one I want to talk about is going to be a topwater. Now, the reason why I like using the topwater, just like I said before, this is going to be that final push, that final migration of that bait fish, that fin fish that's coming through. Once that water temperature drops really cold, those fish are not going to reproduce, and they're going to get flushed out, and the fish are going to wind up being in a crustacean type of pattern. These fish know that, and this is going to be their last chance of getting these fin fish, so they're going to gorge themselves on it. And a topwater does a great job of mimicking an injured bait fish. It's one of the best search lures that you can use out there. Now, there are a lot of really good topwaters out there. One of my favorite is the Moonwalker. It's a topwater lure that you walk the dog with, and it does a really great job of calling the fish in. Another lure that I really like using in the wintertime, especially when the wind is up a little bit, is the Rapala Skitter V. That one works really good also. It's a little bit larger, makes a little bit more commotion on the water. So when the wind is up and there's a little bit of wave action, I like throwing that lure. The next lure I want to talk about is going to be large paddle tails like this 5-inch bomber that we have right here. These do a great job of mimicking the bait fish that are moving in and out of that area, and they're excellent search baits. So once that topwater bite dies down, you want to switch to something like this that's going to be subsurface. Now, there's 2 different ways that I like to rig these. The first one, as you see right here, this is what we call a rigging hook. This is a Haas Helix hook. It's a 4/0. That's an 1/8 ounce weight. And the next way I like to rig it is going to be on an open jig head. Now, this one is what's called a football shaped jig head, as you can see it right there. It's got a different shape on it. That football shape does a really good job of keeping it from getting stuck in structure. It kind of bounces out of there. Now, the reason I would use one over the other, so this one right here is going to be better when you're fishing in deeper water, say 3 foot of water or more, or if you want to retrieve it faster and you want to keep that lure down in the water column. Now, when I would use the rigging hook, like this one right here, this Haas Helix hook, is going to be 2.5 feet of water or less, or when I'm fishing around a lot of weeds, a lot of structure like that it can get hung up on. Now, just in case you're not familiar with what the rigging hook looks like, this is it right here. This is the Haas Helix hook, and it's got this little spiral keeper right there on the front, and that's what keeps that head in place so it doesn't slide down. And this one is a 4/0 hook, and it's got an 1/8 ounce belly weight on it that you see right there. This is how I'm going to use my soft plastics most of the time. I really like using this, especially in shallow water. So that is the Haas Helix hook. And this is what that football jig head looks like when it's not rigged up on a lure. That is it right there. So you see it's got that football shaped head and it's got the two barbs right there. That's going to keep the soft plastic in place so it doesn't slide down. Now, one advantage of using an open jig head over a weedless jig head, because you have an exposed hook like that, you typically get better hook sets with them. If you can get away with using an open jig head and there's not that much structure around and you're not getting hung up on it, I prefer using that one. But anytime that you're fishing around weeds, then you want to use the rigging hook. It's going to do a better job in that situation. Now, the conditions that I'm going to be using these large paddle tails in is typically when the wind is up. I want a little bit of a chop on the water, at least a little bit of a breeze, maybe even under windy conditions, because what's going to happen in under calm conditions, especially in shallow water, these make a lot of commotion when they come through the water. And the fish, when they're in shallow water, they can be a little bit weary, a little bit spooky, and this might be a little bit too much commotion for them, and it can put them off. So I prefer using these whenever the wind is up a little bit. Now, when it's calm outside, that's when I'm going to use the next lure that I'm going to talk about. But before I talk about that one, I just want to let you guys know that any of these lures I'm talking about, whether the lures, the top waters, the rigging hooks, any of this stuff, lines, tackles, rods, reels, we have that available at fishstrong.com. I'd highly recommend checking those out and seeing all the colors and all the lures that we have available. And our insiders get an extra 20% off, and that's at fishstrong.com. Now, the next lure that I'm going to talk about, this is the one that I'm going to use whenever the water is shallow and whenever it's calm, is going to be the 5-inch jerk shad. Now, we have these in a couple of different colors, but the profile does a really good job of mimicking a shrimp or an injured bait fish. It really depends on how you work it and how it's rigged. Now, because I use this in shallow water, I have this rigged on a Haas Helix weedless hook, and that's typically how I'm going to use this bait. Now, the way that I work it to imitate a shrimp is I'm going to throw it out there, I'm going to let it sink to the bottom, then I'm going to give my rod tip a couple of twitches, pause it, and then let it sink to the bottom, and then repeat that process. And those twitches look like a shrimp that is fleeing from predators as it skips across the bottom. Now, to imitate a injured bait fish, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work this lure just like I would a topwater lure, where I'm doing the walk the dog action, where I'm twitching it across the surface. But what happens is this one is a subsurface lure, and as you twitch it, it will dart back and forth, but it does it subsurface, and it does a great job of mimicking an injured bait fish that way. Now, that's a type of retrieve that a lot of people don't use, but it works really good, especially this time of year, to mimic those injured bait fish. You should check it out next time you're on the water. Now, these are the 3 lures that I recommend that you're using this time of year, and as I said before, they are available at fishstrong.com, so I highly recommend going checking those out. And if you've got a lure that you'd like to add to the list, put those down in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you on that. And if you got any questions or comments, just put those down below and I'll try to answer those as soon as possible. And with me being a traveling fishing coach, you never know where I'm going to wind up next, and maybe I'll run into you in the water soon. I appreciate you watching. Have a great day. Bye. And if you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we are the best online fishing club in America, where we guarantee that you'll catch more fish in less time, save money on all the inshore tackle that you need, and make friends fast, or it's free. For more information, go to saltstrong.com. And until then, we hope to see you in the Insider Club soon.